Roll call.
Mr. Ballard?
Here.
Mr. Demakia?
Yes.
Mr. Smith? Mr. Sturgill?
Here.
Mr. Williams?
Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jump right into recognition of visitors. We initially had called this meeting to discuss some of the operations, get some updates on where we're currently at, but we don't have an update at this point in time with operations. So the other thing that we wanted to do was at least make some contact with the citizens of the Lorain Committee and have that discussion about the levy, because the last thing we want to do is put them in a place to start late in the game, and I'm not sure what their timeline is. So I've asked Ms. Bambi Dillon, who chairs that committee, to be here today to kind of give us an idea, or if she had any questions of us in any of the conversations that we will be having upcoming meetings, to at least have the conversation and get it started. So, Bambi, did you?
Oh, good. Take it off, like Michael Jackson.
Do I need to sign in here?
No.
Okay. Okay, I'm interested in knowing what our position is on the levies. What type of levy, and when is it all, I would assume they're all renewals.
Yeah, we have the one emergency levy that's a renewal that we can first put on in May or November of 18.
At 18, and when does it end? 19?
It comes off at the end of 19, so.
So, and we have 3 tries?
3 tries within, those 2 attempts and then the entire 19. So
Okay,
we got some time, but
right. Now, will the millage change, or it's the same?
I'm sure it'll I'm sure it'll update, but that millage, with an emergency, you certify an amount, not a millage, so that'll change
right.
based on tax valuation. So
Okay.
it'll still be that same $3,126,190.
And then what do we look at for the following year? What would be the next group that we would have to go after?
The next then is the current expense levies, and there's 3 of them, and those aren't due until, let's see, the first time they can be put on is November of 2020, or any election in 2021, and so they would come off at the end of 2021. So we got a little bit of time in between there.
That we would have to worry about that. So I guess what I'm asking is, what do you expect of us as the committee? Like, will you decide when you want to go, or you want us to decide when we think it should go? I mean,
We certainly don't want to put you in a position to not be prepared, but again, as we move forward, the one real responsibility we have at this current time is to discuss whether we're going to put a levy out there or not for that renewal. And as we move along here in the next several meetings, we'll probably be having that discussion amongst the board. Obviously, we have a new board member that's going to be joining us in January, so we definitely would like her to be a part of that.
Sure.
Tim's running a little late this evening. So, yeah, I mean, amongst the board, we're certainly going to have that conversation to see where we're at, and then, again, getting a better idea of what kind of time you guys would need, because I know it's been a minute since you guys have met and discussed.
well, we meet usually every year because we try to do things within the community, and but not lately about a school levy. And I guess that was one other thing, is that were you going to have us run it, or were you going to hire from the outside? I didn't know if that was going to be the pleasure of the board, that you wanted us to run it again, because we've run it the past 10, 12 years.
And I can't, I mean, I can't speak for the board without having
I know that we're very
conversations, but-
frugal with the money, considering if you went outside, you'd probably have to spend $20,000 to $30,000 more than what we spend.
Yeah, we've
So-
seen that before.
Yeah, we're ready.
Okay.
You know,
Good.
anytime you give the call, we'll,
Would it be inappropriate to ask what we have in the treasury at this point?
a little bit over $12,000. And I think the last time when we ran the levy, it cost about 18,000.
So we get a little head
And we had
start on
enough
that.
in there that we didn't have to have a fundraiser, but right now, we probably would have to have a fundraiser to spend that kind of money,
Mhm.
unless you guys want to write checks. No,
No.
huh? Oh, gee whiz.
No, we're not interested in that.
I tried.
No, but that certainly will be part of our conversation as we discuss this as a board, you know, what direction we want to go. I know, you know, again, it's only my personal opinion, but I'd rather work with the citizens of Lorain Committee than look for an outside firm to come in and do that.
Well, I know, like, the one year when we were kind of forced into working with an outside firm, they would only do as much money as you had, then you had to raise, and then they
That's right.
continue on, and then at the end, they didn't do anything different than what our committee did.
Mhm.
Not one thing different, other than they charged and we didn't.
Mhm.
And what's the amount of the renewal?
It's 3,126,000. Or currently, it's running at 6.03 mils, but that's gonna change based on tax valuation.
And that's for operations or
It's emergency.
emergency?
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, and so, and if we looked at doing it in May, we'd have to have both, because there's the two pieces the board has to approve. You have to have both of those by February
A certain
4th-ish,
date.
90 days
Mhm.
ahead of the May.
Right, and then you have to send it to the,
You have to take it to the auditor's office, get it
To
certified.
certified,
Once
mhm.
you guys approve to have it certified. And then when it comes back, then you guys approve the rate that they certified it at.
Mhm.
And then it goes back to the auditor's office, and then I gotta take it to the Board of Elections, and then
Mhm.
it's official.
So if we
Once you
decide to
guys
go
pass it.
in May, you need to.
No, by February.
You
They would have to
go by
be
February.
probably all be done. We probably have to, if we wanted to do it comfortably, depending on what our board meetings look like for January, we probably should have something ready to go for the next meeting in December to then
Mhm.
put it on. So we need 2 meetings, basically.
That's pretty close.
right,
Yeah.
and then
Mhm.
we would probably start to get the committee together in January
Mhm.
and start our strategy,
Mhm.
Wow.
Yep.
get pricing and that
Yeah,
type
it's
of
tight.
stuff.
That's why we
Very
need to
tight.
have this conversation and figure out what
What
direction we're going
what
in
we're
and
doing, yeah.
what the
So
board
you would
wants to
either
do.
go in May,
Well, May or November, but then
Or-
then we have the rest of the year. And I think it's
Right.
actually cheaper in November, if I remember right, compared to May.
because you're right, because you have more
It's a general
people
election.
And it's a
Is it
special-
involved in
May
the
it's
More-
cost
There's
of
more
it.
people out in November. I mean, I think
Voting.
we've had these conversations before,
Mhm.
and I think there's actually more people voting
It's
in
gubernatorial,
November
yeah. It's a
than there is in May.
gubernatorial.
It wouldn't-
Right.
You got small, the only
if
people
you-
going out to vote in
for an
May.
advantage, May would,
Yeah,
Make it
so you
stable.
might want to consider that, having it in in November,
Mhm.
and then two in,
2 and
if we
19.
needed to.
Mhm.
I'm optimistic, we'll just have the one in November and win.
yeah,
and
it
then
is,
go
it
on.
is a renewal, you
Right,
know, so.
so
we've-
Okay.
that might be something to consider for,
Yeah.
put it off to November.
I would
But Just
think
let
that-
us know, we'll be ready.
Yeah, if we
Okay.
planned ahead, I would think the best route would be to get them on, for our 3 attempts, if we need all 3, would be to put them on both Novembers, and then a miscellaneous day probably in between,
And
one of
we
the other
probably
elections.
Have about $2,000 more dollars.
Okay,
By
that gives us
then.
more time, that's fine.
Mhm.
Okay?
Gives us more time.
Thank you.
Thank
very
you.
much. Appreciate it.
Yep. Hearing of the public?
Do I have to sign in? There's no pen.
If- If you just cite your name, she can type it
My name
in.
is Linda Lee. Yes. And, what I'd like to say is that there's been a lot of negative publicity around the new CEO. And I kind of realize that that's not the person that you all really wanted. But I think if you would just put aside your personal feelings and let's, roll up your sleeves, we got to get these kids situated. We have to look forward. Whether it's the person you wanted or not, we still have the children. and they need to be educated correctly, and I think we're on the right path. But, like I said, the publicity is not really good. I think you guys know that. But I think you guys also know that all of this happened under your watch. You guys were on the board. I mean, this was the second commission that was appointed. So what was going on before all of this came to the state? So you need to ask yourself that, and we need to quit all of this negativity.
Anybody else?
I'm just going to respond to her. My name is Georgia Smith. I'm also a volunteer in the Lorain City School District, and I am not, I have, my children are graduated from here. But my concern is tonight, other than Bambi and you guys, it's 3 of us. What's the problem? That the board meeting is not publicized. And I cannot say who knows and who does not know. But more people should be attending these board meetings. Parents, grandparents, community people should be getting involved. Or is this not allowed anymore, that you can attend the meetings?
It's always been allowed.
But isn't this kind of sad? That it's only 3 of us other than Bambi, she's on the committee.
You know, we usually just listen, we don't really respond, but what I'm going to say is, whether it's this meeting or whether it's any meeting, I think even with the, was you here for the academic distress meeting?
I did not attend that one, no.
Okay. I would say myself that if you took the staff away, that I think those 2 ladies right there and the gentleman that sits in that chair were here. I think there was about 3 people. So it could be said about any meeting. And yes, a lot more people should, take advantage and be heard. Okay, not only at our meeting, at the ADC meeting, or either one. So it could be said about either one.
Right.
But as far as board meetings, over the years, they've really not been well attended, and that's not a good thing.
I think one time before this all came about, even before the state took over, this meeting is on a Monday, city council meeting is on a Monday, and you discussed that, of changing it so that if you wanted to go to the city council meeting, you could, or you could come and attend the board meeting, school board meeting.
And we did do that, and what we found out was it didn't make any difference.
Okay, all right.
It really didn't make any difference. I mean, yeah, we actually changed to a Wednesday and had our board meetings for a year on Wednesdays so that people could do that, but it still didn't, populate our audience.
Okay, all right.
And I would just add, Ms. Smith, I completely agree with you. We need as many people showing up at the basketball games. We need them to come to our meetings here and really understand what's going on with our schools, our children, because until we can get the parents and grandparents, aunts and uncles involved, that's where we're going to get real change with our students, because people need to be engaged with what's going on with our kids. So I completely agree.
And we need to interact. And there was a meeting over at Harrison Culture Center with the CEO, and it was standing room only, but I did not see one board member there. Not one of you guys were there. And this has been a couple of maybe months ago. He was being introduced to the community, but you guys weren't there. That's a problem.
I could say this.
Yeah, you were there. Excuse
No.
me. I think you were.
I've never.
Jim Smith.
I have never been in Harrison Cultural Center or Harrison School in my life, but.
Jim Smith. Yeah, I had the wrong board meeting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, I attend some of the functions for the CEO.
Okay.
I mean, I listen.
All right. But in my closing, as Linda said, we've got to do better. The kids are suffering. It's almost like a divorce. When a man and a woman divorce, who's in the middle? The children. Thank you.
Mr. Williams? Please.
Bambi Dillon, I agree. The problem that we have always, as long as I volunteered, is communications.
Right.
That's always been the problem. But I find too that with our newspapers, they don't always print what we ask them to print. And it just seems like if we could make sure that the Chronicle and the Journal knows that when the board meetings are, and I believe that they still send out the email to all the staff, to the parents, volunteers, no parents.
No,
I know
but it is advertised in the paper, though, or we send it to them,
Right.
whether or not they're posting it is.
Exactly, so, and I do know that I thought that get something, it's a Titan News or something that, I don't know if it's done now. I think it is still done now that I received it, and it gives you the updates of what's going on in the school system. So maybe if people could sign up for that, they could get it by email if they have computer. But we do need to do better in communications, maybe even have them announce it at the basketball games, at any of the club events, you know, where there's parents that you could announce, you know, school board meetings are, what, the first Monday and third Monday, or whatever of the month. That might help.
Well, it
But
has,
at least you guys are more consistent now than you've been in the past,
well,
at
it has
least
to be
now.
posted by law
Mm-hmm,
so many days in advance
mm-hmm.
for us. If we couldn't get it posted, then we're not allowed to have the meeting.
Yeah, because when you think of how many children we have in the system, do you have any children in the system? Neither do I. What the heck? You know, we need to start getting these parents involved and grandparents, like they said. I agree with them on that.
And
But I don't think there's
on the website, too,
Right,
the meeting schedule, so.
yeah, so as long as we can get it out,
Yeah.
maybe at the PTA meetings, PTO meetings, whatever, we could suggest that.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I need a motion to approve or amend and sign the minutes from the September 18th board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ballard?
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill?
Yes.
Mr. Demakia?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Any old business or reports? Okay, I believe our next board meeting is December
18th.
18th,
Mhm.
6:30 right here at the Media Center. Any other comments?
Did we, since I was absent, I'll get the update. We
Yeah.
covered everything that we had
Yeah,
previously discussed?
Yeah.
I believe so.
Yeah, no, I'd spoken with you, I'd spoken to Mark and Bill, actually, and just making sure that we were, some updates that we think are very important to our singular defined
Mhm.
role, and anything that we would need to give us understanding, clarity, so that when we talk to the public, we can speak with a sense of confidence about those things.
Mhm.
And again, I'll reinforce it, I'm sure you covered it, where we are in terms of this construction, this capital project, which every day that we go further, our interest money has less value.
Yeah.
And
Well, I hope that Mr. Hawks would have an update for us on December 18th.
Oh, that's gonna be good.
Please.
Will
Thank
do.
you.
Mhm.
Keep asking until we get, I guess.
I will.
Yeah. Okay. Need a motion to adjourn?
So we don't have a second hearing from the public, or?
Did you want to ask the same people?
I don't know. It's- but- Yeah, because, there you go. I mean, we may as well just follow the agenda.
I'd like to know, like, okay, like before when I would come to these school board meetings, you had staff here, supervisors here. Okay, is it because of you only having one responsibility?
Correct.
And that's why they're not showing up?
I think we've invited them all.
We've invited them.
We've invited everyone to come to.
Okay, this is how I feel. I know that our structure is different now, but we, the people of Lorain, voted you in as school board members. I would think that we, the people, still have the right to know of what's going on in the school system, as we did before with getting reports. I don't see us getting reports anymore. Who is responsible for informing us citizens on this type of information?
The CEO.
And
Well, do you invite the CEO to the school board meeting
That is correct.
and he chooses not to show up? Is that it? Or could he send a representative, ask him to send a representative? Because that, I have a bad feeling about that. I would like to know what's going on. For us to come here and hear nothing, really, maybe that's why you're not getting anybody, because what's there to hear? I mean, I'd still like to know what's
yeah.
being spent and what's not, and what's being hired and who's not. I mean, is it in the future that maybe the CEO is going to give meetings like that? Or when he's with the distress committee, I would think Lorain City Schools has to have money in order to educate people. I mean, that has to come into play somewhere. I'd like to know where all this is going.
And I think personally, or as a board member, there's two entities that need this information. And I would share and encourage everyone else, this information is ours. It's not some entities, it's ours collectively. And so I know we can't share more with you because we don't have the information.
Right.
And so there are two bodies that I believe by rights and by protocol should have the information. I think the school board should have it, and I think the public should have it. You all have, we're stewards for the public.
Right.
And so you should be able to hear the information from us. And if we can't give you that information, we need to be held accountable to that.
There's a problem.
Yeah. And so, in that accountability that you hold us to, we need that expressed, because then what we say is our public is holding us accountable for this, and on that public's behalf, we aren't asking for the information. And this is information, what the board doesn't have the authority to do is make decisions. But the board, the House Bill 70 did not say that we don't have a right to information. It says somebody else makes a decision. So even if it's FYI, even if it's for your information, that's stuff that we need to have, because at some stage, this, and you may have said this already, this body is expected to go before the public and make requests for money. And when we go before the public and make that request, what we're basically saying is we validate that there's a need for these resources, and we validate that the administration is using these resources wisely. And if we don't have reporting to us, we can't make either of those statements,
Right.
which doesn't give us, in good faith, the right to ask the community to contribute. And so we don't have that information, and we need that. Not to do our jobs in decision-making, but to do our jobs in
To
terms of
inform
what
the
you've elected
public.
us to do. And to be
Exactly.
accountable to the public.
So what has to be done then? Who has to do this? Who has to be forceful to make sure that we get this information? If you're asking politely and nicely and not getting the information, then what needs to be done?
I think the community has to state what its expectations are. Any information, any question if you were to ask us any question about our district
Well,
that's from
Right.
January 25th forward, we could not tell you.
like.
Not that I wouldn't want to tell you.
Like before, you would get information on what they're paying, what groups they have, everything. Now, you see, there's nothing, and there hasn't been anything, and that's my concern. I feel there has to be some type of accountability, nothing saying about you, Josh, we love you. It's just that somebody needs to give us that information. It's like, what is the organizational chart? There has to be some type of chart that's followed, that somewhere along the line, there's something that's given to you as a school board to give to the public, because we're not getting it.
At any given
And-
time,
I'm
Go ahead.
I'm really confused, okay? You're talking about any information, like who the teachers were hired, how much they made, we're talking about
Bills being paid.
bills being paid. Now,
any information.
Grant money.
okay,
Right.
so when you started, when did the CEO start?
July 25th?
So you haven't had any financial feedback from the treasurer to the board that you know? Are you the treasurer?
I am.
You're not allowed to give them the information? Or do you make up a report and give it to somebody? Please enlighten me.
I reported out the 5-year forecast, but beyond that.
And that was last week.
Yes. But beyond that, I still do put together the same reports that would come out of my office, and the CEO approves them then. And typically, then what we would do is make the approved minutes public then, so everybody could view them, as well as come to the board meetings and see how they were approved. Now they flow through his office, he goes through and approves it. We still put together minutes, and that's what I would say is, those minutes are available. You can request those, because public information, you are entitled to it, but it's not posted anywhere.
So,
See, you shouldn't have to call or request it. Everybody should be, yeah, but see, they can't do that.
And
You're
that's-
saying it
that's
cannot
not-
be attached.
It's not my wishes.
okay.
Right, I got you.
An audit was given or something, because at one meeting I was here with the new student, he was giving us money information or some kind of, so he knows what the budget and everything is, right, Mr. Hart?
Yes.
So his job is to release that information to the public, or it doesn't have the right to release it without talking to somebody?
At the end of the day, and these are discussions that we've had, at the end of the day, it's public information. I mean, anything can be requested, it's available, we still do the minutes, they're still published in our minutes log, basically.
So if I could go online and I could find the meeting, your meetings, you don't have minutes from your meetings?
Because it's not an official meeting.
Yeah.
When he does it, he sits down and goes through the list of things and does them.
This is not an official meeting, right?
This is,
Okay, so I can go online tomorrow and find the minutes of this meeting and any other meeting?
for exactly what's listed on there, yes.
But what you won't
But
find
you're not gonna
is any
find-
information.
Right.
You find minutes.
It's just what we talked about
Here's
here.
what you talk about, the finance, there's no financial budget, or nothing like that, none of that information will be on your board.
It'll
And
look just like this. It basically gives you a rundown of what we've ran through in the meeting. It'll look like that, but it'll have anything that was voted on, which is basically going in and out of.
If you can't do anything, how do you have all this stuff on your agenda? Is this agenda, your meeting?
This is our generic agenda,
Yeah.
Oh.
okay?
You still have to take a vote to come in and out of a meeting. You still have to take a vote to approve the meeting minutes from the prior meeting. But every other item on the meeting agenda basically is info, it's discussion, we come to discuss the levy
It's an
last
outline,
time.
but there's no content.
Yes.
Okay, just like it's something about the superintendent, so we have nothing?
There's no action items.
Oh.
Because it's approved by the
CEO.
CEO, not the superintendent.
And so what we are not fighting, the
No.
law says that we don't have decision-making responsibility, but the law doesn't say that we don't have access to information. And I don't think it's reasonable for the board or the public to have to do a public information request to get information.
To get this, so now if I
Right.
want information, I have to ask for it.
Mm-hmm.
To get
And it should be available, accessible, easily accessible, so you don't have to call, write letters, say, would you please provide A, B, and C? Because you don't even know what A, B, C is to provide, right? The body of information on decisions made by this school district with taxpayer money should be available and accessible to the public. I don't think that's unreasonable for you or us to request.
Well, who can answer what I've read in the paper, two different papers, one that superintendent resigned, the other one said he didn't. Two different papers said two different things.
He is not officially resigned.
Well, where did the newspaper get all this? That's mind-boggling to me.
there has been ongoing discussions about the future of the superintendent with the district, but nothing official has been released. Yes.
The media got something from someplace.
I thought
There was
the
an-
CEO sent out a
There was an email that was sent out, and it was discussing him looking to go in a different direction, but it never said in the email he was resigning, but trust me, I can understand why it was confusing.
So we're paying for a newspaper that's lying, right?
Well,
It's not the newspaper that's lying, it might just be the information and how it's getting to the newspaper. There has been,
why would there have been information about the superintendent's employment sent to the newspaper?
Exactly.
And let's just cut to it. I mean, did you get the information? I didn't get the information. I got a call from a reporter on Wednesday night. I don't know how the information that has no business of the newspaper about somebody's employment getting, somebody
There was a memo.
sent correspondence.
There was a memo that was sent out in a discussion at the Academic Distress Committee meeting that announced his resignation from this district.
Right.
I got the same phone call you did from two different newspapers, and my immediate response was to call Dr. Jeff Graham myself and ask him straight if he resigned, because we were unaware as a Board of Education that he resigned his position. And his answer to me was, no, he has not resigned, nor has that been a conversation. So I'm not sure why a memo would be sent out or a conversation that he resigned when he didn't resign.
Who sent the memo?
It came from the CEO.
He did it after, he did it after this meeting, because I was at the meeting.
Well, he actually sent it out the afternoon.
And
It was sent out in the afternoon before the academic distress meeting.
But he didn't mention that at the meeting at all, because I was.
Yeah, I wasn't there, so I
I
don't know.
was there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he did mention that.
And then in
Yeah.
the comment,
And then you saw it in the paper the next day.
no, my
Right.
girlfriend called me and told me it was on, online.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I didn't hear anything at the meeting, so I'm confused.
I was at the meeting and I got called by the reporter, and I just told him straight up, I says, well, I have no knowledge that he has resigned from the district.
Can I ask a question then? Since it's the citizens that can ask or request the information, can it be requested by the citizens to the CEO to provide the school board with the information on a monthly basis? That you would get the information so the public would have knowledge of what was going on, and if we had questions, we could ask them and then get answers. Because if there's no way that we can ask a question then about anything, I've never seen that. I mean, I worked for 41 and a half years for a company, and we had a CEO, but you also had directors that reported CEOs, so you got your information that way.
Just for a
with
point of
being business.
clarification, though, wasn't it in the newspaper that we requested that information through a public records request? A lot of the information that she was referring to?
Well, not on a regular basis, no. I mean, what they're talking about is getting information, accessible information on a regular basis.
But they asked,
That's
have we
what this
got any
conversation-
information since the CEO has come? And basically,
No, only
the
what
answer
I've
is-
asked for.
The answer
Yes.
is, we continue to ask,
Correct.
give public records requests to get some of the information
So
you're
not
referring to.
only do I think it's appropriate for citizens to request that, or I don't know if it's a request or to state that's what the wish of the citizens are, but I think that information should be provided at a school board meeting. Me getting information as Tim Williams is not the school board receiving information. You can send it to each one of us individually, and that is not we are only the school board as a school board. And we should have information provided to us. What happens is when we get information, generally speaking, we're getting it at the same time. We're getting it on an equal basis. The chair, on our behalf, will oftentimes discuss this information beforehand, but it's also very important that the information is presented in a very transparent way. Why is that? Well, if we're getting information to disseminate, I might get 3 of the things out, but not 5 of them. He might get another 2 out. Now, all of a sudden, we're creating a greater misinformation stream. That information should be presented at a school board meeting. The school board meeting is covered by media, and it is attended by citizens. And so what happens is oftentimes, when we're making a decision, when we would do decision-making, you all would hear the decision as the decision was made. And I think it's very important that the school board get information as a school board. I want to come to a meeting, and at that meeting, I would like to be informed with my colleagues in public view on information. I don't want to get an email sent to Tim Williams on information that should be presented in a certain format. So I think the meeting, I think you're right. We want the information, and that information should be provided in the format of a public meeting, in compliance with Sunshine Law and all of its expectations.
Well, just for FYI, just the news media, you see what kind of respect, there's no news media here for the school board meeting, is there? He's with the schools. You know, so it just goes to show you, so.
And I think
like
they may have
said-
lost track because frankly, this is the first time we've had a scheduled
Regular
meeting.
It was
No, I
in
think
the
Rick
paper.
said,
They
I think
did
Rick
re-
said he needed to go to the
Yeah.
Yeah,
council
it was-
meeting
Council
tonight.
Yeah,
meeting.
Rick did reach out to us today.
He
and asked the agenda, and then.
Because he was there last week, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
both of them, Chronicle and the Journal.
All right, well, I still don't understand it. I want information. I don't have time to call every month. You know, I'm involved in enough, and then I gotta remember to call when I think it should just be given to us automatically at a school board meeting.
And Josh, can you kind of note that?
We can do, the easiest way is to do one of two ways. If you wanted to reach out to him directly as representing the community and everything and stating these, get your concerns, things like that, that's probably the most direct route. The other route is, if you want to send me something official and I can speak on behalf of you and the community, that would be fine as well.
But
Okay.
is it against the state for the CEO and the board members to meet together at
No.
a board meeting? And then we can address whatever we need to address to him and to you guys as well. The same night, not second hand, tonight or tomorrow night, whatever night.
You guys get together?
Right, everybody.
That's our preference. That is our preference. Is that our preference?
Correct.
Is that we meet as a board with the CEO.
Yeah.
Here.
Right,
Yeah.
so because this is, because I'm not coming to another board, I can go to their house. Instead of coming up here, the three of us, and
We
invite
could go out
family
to
over.
eat, yeah. The four of us could go out to eat, what the heck? All right. I just think that,
But being, being our representative, and you are all about the kids, you should extend an invitation that people want, we can have a group and then invite the public.
To board meeting.
Yeah, we need to get this together.
Yes.
We have.
We have to, you need to do it again and put it on blast, whatever you have to do, you're gonna have to do it. I'll go and talk to
Done.
people and say, look, you need to meet with the board, because this is ridiculous.
It makes Lorain
Look bad.
City of Lorain.
And I'm a
Look bad.
retired teacher, and I've been here 36 years in Lorain City School, born and raised, parents, sisters, all of us teachers. Your dad? Yeah, my dad. Ambrose Cook. And I don't know if your mother worked for my dad.
He was one of my assistant principals. Used to
Yeah,
love him.
right,
Used to
right,
love him.
right.
He loved everybody. He was awesome.
They-
He was awesome. Yeah.
We need to get this together.
But as a point of clarification, we have invited them to our board meetings. You know, and we will continue. I mean, we would love to have, the-
Invite him, and
Absolutely.
if he declines, keep on until he says yes. Don't give up the ship.
we're not going to do that, but as far as putting people on blast, I mean, that's not, I do know what you're saying, but I just, for a point of clarification.
We ain't blasting nobody.
Yeah, we have continued to, and,
Well,
no,
on the other
and
hand.
actually, we would love to have a meeting as a board with our CEO. Yeah, we've requested several, and we continue to have that as an open invitation, to have that meeting together as a board. Yes,
I do a lot of that.
yes.
We have a meeting
All right.
December 14th, I'll bring it.
Okay.
December 14th, we're supposed to have a town hall meeting or something. I'm gonna be
That's
there
great.
and bring it up and say, wow, you need this.
Well,
I will do that.
we thank you all for being here.
We thank you.
We appreciate you and your involvement. With all that being said, anything else? No? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Support.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Sturgill?
Yes.
Mr. Ballard?
Yes.
Mr. Demakia?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
I gotta race out.
This has been a production of Lorain City Schools TV 20 WLCS.